Yes, Alex Maleev is not making it today.
All right, so we'll draw Daredevil too.
Yeah, we'll do that. With a little cartoon sketch of Bendis. All right, so as you get set up, let's start. What inspired you to start drawing in the first place? So we'll go to the roots of it all.
Well, Star Wars, I would say, like in school, in elementary school, drawing Star Wars, but mostly just TIE fighters with X's and H's for X-Wings, X's for X-Wings and TIE fighters and little H's, and having a great time creating stories. And actually, it's very much, a lot of the stuff I was doing was, I was more focused on storytelling than versus that of just drawing individual drawings.
Very cool. Now, one of Valiant, that's like some of your earliest work, Shadow Man, right? So how did that come about?
I was trying to get, I would have loved to have been the first job in Marvel, but I was a newbie. I took what job I could get, and it was a fantastic job because when you draw your own artwork for years and then you find yourself with a script, it was so intimidating and trying to imagine what somebody else wanted. It was the worst, most difficult time because now it was now you had to take your skill and make it do what somebody else wanted you to do.
Right.
And intimidation, a sense of failure, sense of falling apart. But then, at some point you start going, well, you know what? I'm just going to pretend I wrote this, and this is what I want to do. And so that actually helped me out quite a bit. And working with Shadow Man, lost that job within they went out of business, and then the next person I worked for was Todd, was McFarlane, working on Kiss Psycho Circus.
Yeah, that seemed to be a thing with Valiant, and kind of even in recent years, it kind of relaunched and got bought out a few times. But as far as you were kind of touching on design and drawing, like big IP characters, Marvel and stuff like that. How do you approach designing characters that are so, embedded in our mind, right? And bringing your own unique styles, a Venom, a Batman.
I think, I have my own ideas, and then, as everybody has their ideas, and, for any of you that have actually drawn, your idea and what you can do are two separate things.
Right.
And so I'd probably lie heavily on, if I was doing Spider-Man, I would lay heavily on people that I worked with before, and mostly I think the thing that makes my artwork different than others is that or that can stand out, is that whatever I don't seem to understand about the world and art, that seems to come through and make my people look weird, or it's like all my failures or all my inabilities was what makes my style. So, because I've tried my best to do like realistic stuff, and I don't enjoy it at all. So,
there's supposed to be a sketchbook up here for us. Well, all the other sketch tools are supposed to be up here. Does anyone in crew works here? Do you have the sketchbook?
Is anybody here?
This is awkward. I feel so bad. You're like, paper. I can't draw without paper. It's supposed to be here.
This whole thing's a mess.
Let's go office style.
Give me that first. I'll take that too. First off, being that you mentioned that, I'll take one.
I would.
Just because.
There we go.
There's a whole thing or a couple pages?
Just a page.
Right there, here, buddy.
It's like old school.
Like this. Nice. Okay, we're doing some like elementary school right off the bat.
We just think it's like a 1:100 ratio, right? It's like this is the high school edition.
You have to draw like those crazy drawings that you just daydream about.
So you're starting off with Spawn, right?
Well, I'm going to do some X-Wing fighters and some TIE fighters.
All right.
Just as I said.
All right.
Yeah, so Spawn, I tried to get him to come in here, but he's like, oh, I'm busy. But I saw him sweat. No, I'm kidding. No. Give him a hard time and he already left. All right. So, one thing about drawing in front of people is just understand that you likely will draw things wrong your whole life, and just get over it. Because and don't worry about it, because the one thing I loved about interior work is that I understood was that when you work on covers, everything should, you want that thing to be solid and tell a story in one shot. But with interior work, it gives you some room to to just blow it every now and then and make a bad panel, make a bad piece of artwork, because they're going to go right on to that next one. Sitting down and watching people read a book, it takes like 5 minutes, but it took me 12 hours per page. So, you can actually learn how to let go of and relax and enjoy your work. Because every now and then you're going to get a couple of losers, but for the most part, hopefully you get a win most of the time. And I didn't know Todd was going to be in here, so when I saw him, I was like, I gotta wait for this guy to stop talking. And then I was like, oh wait, that's Matt's like, oh that's talking about that's Todd. I'm like, oh, hey, that's Todd. I was like, anyway, I always looked up to Todd, and he was one of the first artists that I actually learned to remember. Took the time to remember his name. And we've crossed paths a lot throughout the past 20-some years. And his thing was always to when it came to interior work, make something good. Make one thing on that page stand out and be something that would wow somebody, And then you could kind of relax on a lot of the other side stuff, but so, and which helps you out. When I had to work on a whole issue in 2 weeks, like X-Force. When I was doing digital painting of that book, there's like 2 or 3 issues where I did 15 days, about 15 days to do that, and so I just spread out the whole book and I numbered it. It was like if it was 5 panels, 1 through 5. Next page, 1 through 4, 1 through 6, however the panels were. And it was just like, okay, start working on the whole book. I spent like 15 minutes on every panel. And then I started at the beginning, and I got rid of all the 5s and all the 4s, And then it was 3s and 2s, 15 minutes on everything, then 2s, one more time, 30 minutes. And then the last one was just the 1s, that one thing that made every panel good. And that was very helpful to just be able to manage your time, because that's the one thing in comic books is it's every month, and every month you should have something coming out to keep people interacting, and I think that's probably why having had done so many covers in the past 7 years, which has given me, I never meant to be a cover artist, but I ended up doing so many covers that at some point somebody's like, how do you become a cover artist? And I'm like, I've been doing interiors, and nobody knew. So, because it was, there were people that knew. I had some fans for it, but it's getting, when I was doing interior books fully painted, I would do 6 books a month. But if you're doing covers, you could end up, possibly doing about 50 covers a year.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah. Well, that brings up an interesting question. Like you said, you've primarily been doing covers. You're one of the best cover artists out currently. What is your creative process? Does your creative process differ from covers to interiors, and which do you personally enjoy more?
I want to do interiors, but interiors I enjoy them as far as like that whole relaxed part. Mm-hmm. Covers, I enjoy them for you get an idea, you're done, and you move on. But as far as I think, like currently I'm working on some ways to get back into doing interior works without stepping into, without getting away from the cover work.
There you go.
But I'm working on it.
What would you say goes into a good cover? Like, what do you? I know that's probably going to differ between every artist. You personally, what do you think makes a good cover? Because a lot of times, you know, especially people first getting into comic books, they're not necessarily looking for like, you know, I need that Snyder Batman title or I need that Todd McFarlane Gunslinger. They're just like, that's a cool cover, so that's going to like cause the sale, right? Especially when you're first getting in. So, what do you personally think goes into a good cover?
Well, there's, when you do a cover, you think there's just one thing, and there you got your main character, and I think you try to get at least three things going on in a cover. You got your main character, an explosion, and then like a gas can. You know, like you need three things just to give you like. Now you've told a story, like you've given that, you know, well, you have, like I did these Venom covers for, or the what is it, Ooey Gooey, like that horse, Venom.
Oh, okay.
Venom horse.
Yes.
And he's doing something kind of, the one where he's hanging upside down, you know, so make something kind of funny, like something. That one has at least the webs, the horse, and the background, but really I think that one, the third one, was that it is a classic Spider-Man pose for a horse.
Right.
So, you know, you need, and to make that work. And actually, one cheat on that was, I looked and I found a horse sitting, and I'm like, perfect. Like that was, like, you know, the ability to trying to actually draw a horse and not make it look like a dog or a camel, that's like, it's like, that there was that skill too. So I had Curse of Spawn, I had a dog in there, and Chance Wolf and Glapian were giving me a hard time. They're like, you drew all these camels on this boat. Yeah.
Covers telling a story. I feel like it's a lot harder because you have to tell a story quickly and in one image. You don't get like 20, 22 pages to tell a story. You kind of have to be like, this is a story, right? You have to understand what's going on in a single image. So you're like, this is what I want to convey, or sometimes like, I want to do this, like, this is going to be a really sick pose.
Well, sometimes it's like, I'll sit down and, well, if you're drawing Spider-Man, you're like, well, I'm going to do the pose. There's so many, they've all been done. He's been pushed in every position. And so then it becomes, well, usually what I like to ask them, they're like, hey, let's get a Spider-Man cover, and I'm like, is there a story? I mean, I need something. Mm-hmm. I need like one kernel of like direction, just so that it gives me something to work with, that whole point of view. Like, I was given, one of my favorite covers was, I don't even know if I'm remember your question, but was
it's interesting. It's fun.
Yeah, is Spider-Man Sensational 32, I believe it was, with Mary Jane on his back, and they're doing the story was they know who Peter is and they're coming after him and they're going through Mary Jane. So then I was like, oh well, he's always the nice guy, so that's a terrible position, you know. Mm-hmm. And so it made drawing Spider-Man much more of a darker character now, right, now that he's a villain. So that cover is much more darker, and I thought, well, he's going to do just about anything. And he's much more powerful, you know, than he's normally is presented, because he's just a nice person.
Right.
So that one, and right after that one, I made one with Aunt May and Peter Parker, and she's like cradling him, and he's just tore up, and then you see like the web in the back just kind of like floating, mm-hmm, like through the light of a alleyway, like an alleyway light. You just see through. It's not drawn everywhere. You just kind of see that bit, and that just and garbage cans tossed over, something that really has like a good emotional feel. you know, that's a hard one to get through. And then, I don't know, what are like some, right now I've been mostly focused on color, and that changed with when I started doing infinity signatures and doing the infinity books, or the all that infinity reward kind of books. That actually, it's oddly enough that changed my whole style, like after that, because I started adding color into everything.
I was actually going to bring that up. One of my questions I was going to ask is, how do you feel your art, because I feel like whether it's Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, you, whoever it is, their art kind of naturally, or maybe purposefully, like changes over the years. Would you say, as far as being an artist, is it just because you're learning more things, learning more techniques, you're constantly getting better? Or I was talking yesterday, and an artist told me that, you know, just boredom. So how would you say for you, why, you know, has your artist changed, and why has it changed over the years?
Currently, materials, like I started with pencils for about 5 years, and I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't get the same. I didn't draw. Like I was a McFarlane fan, but I did not draw like McFarlane, and I could not enjoy it. I thought it would, it was something about, and you know, because I didn't want to look like McFarlane. I didn't want to look like his work, so I couldn't just mimic him. And I gave it up after 5 years. That was 2003. I gave it up, and then I started coloring my own work, and then I realized just coloring the computer was just good enough. And it was the material that changed my style, which was digital work. And then as I came back into the world of doing covers with Marvel in 2017, I was like, well, I'm going to do covers. I'm painting them. I want something real in the world. And that changed my style, because now I don't have the slickness, complete slickness of a digital computer. And then I got into acrylics, then I got into oil painting and a variety and all those. So far it's been, aside from the characters, because once you start drawing Venom all the time, then that changes everything. Then your symbiotes, those were huge. End up drawing so many symbiotes, and then I look at my signature and I'm drawing it next to a symbiote, and I'm like, it looks just like a symbiote. Like, it's a has that long, drippy symbiote look. So,
do you have a favorite? You just mentioned you're doing like obviously like watercolors here, digital, traditional. Do you have a personal favorite, or is it just kind of, is it vary depending on like what you're working on for that project?
I think it's, I like having multiple things, but currently, like I don't mind being able to just sit down with some paints and some Poscas, Copics, and working. I've been staying away from digital just because I don't want to hear the computer hum. I don't want to look at a screen. And so I've been keeping most of my stuff off that. I prefer, no, I like having variety, because
it's more
one day I'm like, I'm done, you know, if I'm making covers for, I think I was doing some, like I'll send my buddies some covers, and like, here's 4 covers I just finished, you know. It's like just belt them with a bunch of covers that I just did, and then we're like, we haven't left the house in like 7 days, like we've been just working. So I do get tired. I don't know if I get tired of doing it, but I do need to change it up, because it's been so constant.
It's like monotonous.
It isn't monotonous. What it is when I sit down, there's nothing there. And you just kind of sigh and go, all right, everything's going to look like garbage for quite a while, and it's just going to be a big mess. But you have that confidence that at some point it will pull together. At some point it will, we're doing a breakfast like drawing thing the other day, and they're like, oh, here he's pulling out the pen, so they're already seeing where I'm going with just highlights, because they know that I'm about done, Right. And which are highlights, you have to wait till the very end, otherwise, it's kind of like you don't start with the dessert. You have to do all the hard work first and eat the salads and stuff because you got to, so you have to be a little patient. And sometimes the worst drawing is if I've been way too impatient and I started at the good stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Seeing somebody draw on TikTok or whatever have you, and they start with an eyeball and then they draw the person outward. Those people are insane.
That's why
are they even real people?
What do you? Are you a real person?
Yeah.
So getting into your mind a little bit more with that, when you're looking at a blank piece of paper, do you have most of the idea already in your, can you see it in your brain, or are you kind of working it out as you go?
I don't, I have an idea, I'll see, sometimes if you, I'll stare at it and I'll start, I think I just see shadows of what could be. And then when I'm drawing at cons, I'll just take the paint, I'll take a light tone, wash it down a bit and do a light wash and start building it up. And I still have a mentor, but his name's Henry Stinson, and he helped me understand how I draw, and I draw more of a construction way of I don't necessarily make circles for everything, but I will, as I put it down, I will start painting to create structures. I'll use my brush to contour and do certain things like that.
Right.
But I don't have a direct vision of it. Sometimes it's mostly a feeling, and there's a thought that, and I believe this with a lot of people, they have these great ideas in their mind, and they're I have these great ideas and I just can't get them out. It's yeah, that's just a feeling, and that's why you have to, and it could be true, very well true.
Right.
I mean, that's probably why AI is pretty amazing, because now opens it up to all these people to actually show you the thoughts that they had in their mind.
Yeah.
Or at least get close. So, but it's when I sit down and start a picture. Sometimes it's throwing some music, and I actually will play a certain song just because I know that song has the right beat or elevation in it to where I'm that's what I want to reach that sound. Something.
Right.
So, and that will help me out, but.
We do have roughly 10 minutes left.
Oh,
for the next panel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to give you a warning. But you did bring up AI, and it's something I did want to talk to you about, being, an artist. How would you feel about that? Obviously, it's getting, specifically in the comic book space, it's getting rejected pretty hard. Anyone, finds out Marvel or anyone's using AI is nah. So what are just your personal thoughts on AI, being that, this is your profession and what you do?
I'm not for or against it, or really, it's really what people want to do with it. If people buy it, then it becomes something, and if they don't, then but for myself, that's why I've been pushing more towards everything being real, being sketched, being I record everything as I go, and it just kind of worked out for that. Actually, I had started doing that, and then AI just showed up. It seemed like overnight it just was.
Literally, now it's embedded in iPhones, and you can't get rid of it even if you wanted to.
I tried to stay away from on Photoshop. I was hey, add AI. I'm no way.
Yeah.
You were gonna see that.
Everything's got it. Yeah.
But there was already stuff with that, with content-aware fills that I would use content-aware fills on sometimes when I do a cover and the edges are all, it's not going to fit, so I bring it in and I do it like a content-aware fill, so then the bleeds are filled in because nobody cares.
Right.
But you need them. So
one of my favorite covers you did was the Looney Tunes cover. That was, do you remember that one? The Looney Tunes? It was
2023.
It was 2023, I believe? It was a New York Comic Con cover.
Yeah.
It was all,
with all the characters.
Yeah. I was oh, that is awesome. That was actually one of the biggest books at the convention. But that got me thinking, you've worked with so many, DC, Marvel, Looney Tunes, you've done so many different IPs. Has there one that's eluded you yet, or that you actually were working on and it kind of fell through? Is there something I mean, you'd have Joker, Batman, so many things. Is there one that you're like, I need this one?
Yeah, we did a Zootopia, and they're like, no, this, we don't get what you're doing. And I'm like, this, you got one of these little gopher things. He's like stealing all the lollipops or the popsicles or whatever. And I was like, and they're dressed up as cops chasing him down. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. I was like, I don't care about sense. I just wanted to see the popsicles all over the place. And they didn't like that one. I don't do well with Disney because they're
Very strict.
they're very strict,
Yeah.
and they're just retaining their property. I understand that, and I just want to have a good time, you know.
So-
Artists just want to have fun, you know. So
Do you feel any of that through, since Disney owns Marvel, Star Wars? Do you feel any of that through, or is there enough separation there for you creatively?
Oh, well, Star Wars has always been very difficult to work with.
Yeah.
Because they're, you know, but they probably know, just thinking about it now, they know the Star Wars fan is not going to take it. So
It's true.
There's probably that too. You know, I enjoy the idea of drawing all these characters, but the problem sometimes is once I sit down and, like, say, I haven't drawn Flintstones, but if I drew them, I'm going to make them look like Hanna-Barbera Flintstones. I can't help it.
Right.
Like,
I think fans appreciate that too, because there's that sense, like, you want that Spider-Man book, you want that Flintstones book because of how you know it, right? So I think there is a sense of, like, obviously have your creative freedom stuff, but you do have to stay traditional to what people love, because that's why people are even buying it in the first place.
Yeah.
So is that a balance for you? You think it's like you can't change it too much to get away from what it is, but you also want to bring your own version of it?
Well, sometimes I'm just oblivious to even try. Like, I think it's most like I'm just like, I start drawing Flintstones, and which I haven't done, but if I was to draw Flintstones, it would be, I would make them, I don't know, it's like one of those things where if I was drawing Spider-Man, I would start out drawing him like McFarlane, but then over time I would get away from it, because then I would have drawn it so many times. And while I'm working on my own project, I draw it by itself multiple times so as to get used to the character. Because when you start a character, look, you had McFarlane here with his Spawn. That first vision of Spawn was different than where Spawn got.
Yeah.
So some of these characters are, over time, you find what is interesting to yourself. Because I don't really see myself as a stylized artist, but then everyone over here that I know is like, everybody knows what your artwork looks like. I'm like, I have no idea.
Very distinct.
I can't see it. I'm blind to it.
So, I mean, going off that, it's so distinct. I mean, it's very high quality art. I think that's one of the appeal. Your art is amazing, very high detail. But with all these deadlines, and earlier you were saying how many covers you would do like in a month, how do you maintain that quality of art but still hit your deadline? Because I know deadlines is like very important in the comic book world.
Well, just fear. You just got like things like putting the covers closer to the deadline to when you actually finish them. Then you just end up having no choice.
Okay.
You know, and then and sometimes I've actually recently kind of blown it because I was like just pulled back on a project because I'm like I've overwhelmed myself. You know?
Right.
So.
Is there?
And that's another thing. Is like when you get into this world, I hear of people not being able to get done. It's like that you really got to focus on that, because I think a big difference between people that stick around is being able to not wait for their feelings to catch up with them. It's like you got to learn to control what you're doing and your time and your ability and you can't wait for the mood to hit you. You know, you have to learn. All right, I think that's why I probably use music. I'm like, force the mood, force something to happen.
That makes total sense. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. So at this point, I like to throw to the audience and give them a chance to ask you some questions. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
All right, so we got 5 minutes left, and then I guess we're giving away 3 pieces, or you're gonna go for a fourth?
Oh, that's right. Fourth.
Oh, try fourth.
Daredevil.
Oh, there. Okay, so 5 minutes for questions right here.
Yeah.
Well, great, you're a cover artist and everything, but will you being a cover artist, does that mean you like when you started out doing drawings? when you were trying to figure out, like, get the picture in your head, did you have to, like, redraw the same poses, or you just simply just said, oh, I'll just look at like maybe like 2 or 3 references and try to draw those?
No, I would sit down and do really quick, like I would, if I was having, and it'd be about this big, a page full of tiny little shots, and like Spider-Man's, his leg, his bottom leg, his body, where his head would be, his arm, and down, and if he's sitting on something. And I'd be like, no, and then I'd go over here and I'll do this. And I'll get some direction going on, and then character's head, their shoulders, you know, maybe a hand down here, and then I'm like, oh, that's solid, put X. You know, it's like, for me, that's all I needed. Like, even though, and the funny thing about that is, for me, is I look at some of those sketches that I do in about, 5 or 6 minutes, a little bigger, some are, then extend a little larger after that. When I start working on it, I look back and I go, I really wish I could have got the energy that was in that first sketch, because as much as it had, and as I work on it later, it's almost like I pull all the joy out of it by bringing it to life. I make sure the hands look right, I make sure the legs look right, make sure that everything's right, and then I'm like, and that's why I like, Bill Watterson and Scotty Young. They just have a great energy, and there's like, they hold all that energy inside of it.
Well, I think it's time to give these away. We've got another panel coming here in about 10 minutes. So everyone got a ticket when you walked in here, right? Okay, so there's gonna be 4 winners. I'm gonna let you do the honor. Pick
All right.
4.
So we'll do
Spawn first?
we'll do Spawn first.
All right, you pick out of here.
All right. And we got, the last 4 digits?
The last 3 is fine.
185.
Last 3 digits, 185.
Oh, what was that? Oh, give it to the guy again? No, I'll give him a separate sketch. No, this is what we all do.
All right. You're taking home the Spawn. Congratulations. It's the 1/100 high school ratio. That's what we're dubbing it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you need the ticket?
Yeah, you can sit right here. Yep.
And if you, afterwards, if you guys want to get a picture, we can do that over here.
Awesome. Yeah, if you got anyone who wants a sketch, he'll take a picture with you after.
Yeah.
All right, so we're doing Venom next?
We'll do Spider-Man next.
Spider-Man? Okay.
And we have 185, no, I'm kidding, 240.
240. Last 3 digits, 240. Nice.
Oh, I got a sign.
Get that Siggy on it. There's still 2 more.
Oh,
Is this for Venom?
yeah, Venom.
Okay.
Well, it's really close. 237.
237. Last 3 digits,
Sounds like
237.
nice. Yeah.
That's great. And the man without fear is last.
Yeah. And 296.
296. Last 3 digits, 296. There we go. That's quick.
Thank you so much. There you go.
All right.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you can do it right there. All right, guys, that wraps up this panel. Clayton, thank you so much for taking the time, giving the people these sketches. Have a good MEGACON, everyone.
All right, everybody. time for a panel break. I think we're gonna go back down. We haven't been on the floor in like 2 hours, get the body moving again. And then there's another panel with David Nakayama scheduled at 5. So we have like an hour. So we're going down.